Everything's coming up to Timberwolves. Yeah, in the zone. Simple dedication to the team when you're in the know. To Timberwolves. Yeah, in the soul. Lifting all the positivity for the Wolves to grow. So, where we going from here, man? We listen week to week to get the clearest to clear. Recaps, got that. Soundcap, got that. Team ads, got that. So tell me what they do not have, huh? How dare you? Foolish question to ask, but I don't mean to go brag. But boy, they got all the stats, and they could go all the way back from KG to Zerbiak. And all I'm saying is that the cast a one-stop shop for my Timberwolves. Timberwolves. Ain't a thing falling, everything's coming up. Timberwolves. Timberwolves. Falling from the autumn, ain't nobody gonna stop them. It's the Timberwolves. Timberwolves. Phonies, you can spot them, they the sheep under their clothes. Timberwolves. Timberwolves. Talk a lot about them, y'all don't really know. Let's go.
Welcome into another Everything's Coming Up Timberwolves podcast. My name is Gabe Anderson, and we're joined as always by Chris Emerson. Chris, how we doing?
Doing well.
Good. Glad to hear it. You may notice we are missing someone from the intro tonight. Jared Good isn't able. He might join us later. We'll see. But for now, it's just going to be us two tonight. We're just going to talk about the trade deadline a little bit. It was a busy trade deadline. Where would you say, in general, the trade deadline that you can remember, like with all the moves and stuff, ranks? Like, you don't have to be a definitive rank, but upper tier, lower tier, or middle tier for trade deadline.
It's got to be upper tier for me. I mean, you've got, multiple all-stars, McCollum, Harden, Simmons, Andre Drummond, young stars and Halliburton. Porzingis, I think, has probably been in an all-star. I mean, there's a lot of big names that have moved around.
Yeah, and I noticed something. It wasn't just the all-star day either. It was the trade deadline day. It was a couple days before it as well, because you had the Sabonis trade, which immediately affected the Timberwolves. I think Sabonis, now people could say the refs, but I think Sabonis was the main reason we lost against the Kings, to be honest. And then, of course, you had the CJ McCollum trade. What's interesting, and we'll talk about this a little more, it seems like there's a lot of teams, or particularly there are a couple teams that for some reason are going all in to get the 10th spot in the West.
Yeah, I mean, look at the last team that we know that did that was the Chicago Bulls, They went all in right at the end, and they got Vucevic last year. They made the playoffs, made a little bit of a run, and then that maybe made them a little bit more attractive as a free agent market. And then they turn around and add DeRozan, and now look at them. They're right up top in the East and about to get beat tonight by the Timberwolves.
Hell yeah. Yeah, no, it's going to be a good matchup. This is one I definitely had circled on my calendar going forward. But going back to the trade deadline, let's just get to it. All in all, and we'll kind of go trade by trade a little bit. Who is your biggest winner from the trade deadline? Who would you say got the W the biggest? And you can mention a couple teams, but who would you say is your ultimate W?
Yeah, I'm gonna say my top two.
Sure.
My top two are the Nets.
Yep.
Just because, I mean, oh man, they did so well. I mean, Harden is, in my opinion, kind of a shell of who he used to be. He's owed ridiculous amounts of money if he opts in, and then even that, after that, his next contract's probably going to be $50 million a year.
Right.
I hated their lineup. I hated the idea of Kyrie Irving, Harden, and Durant together. Just seemed like a bunch of guys that want to do ISO basketball, not really play D, not really pass. It's not really. I mean, I just hated that combination. So then they ended up getting Ben Simmons, obviously. And what's a sleeper here is they got Andre Drummond.
Yeah,
that dude is just a couple years away from being the league leader in rebounding. He's always gets a ton of steals. Last year got a bunch of blocks too. I mean, he's that dirty work monster that is doing everything that, Harden and Durant don't have to do now.
Right.
And then add Simmons, who's like the Rolls Royce version of that dirty monster, getting everything else taken care of, moving the ball, pushing on the break, grabbing rebounds. I think in the last 3 years, his passes to open 3-pointers or passes to 3-pointers made is like number 1 in the NBA. So
Right.
I just love what they did. I loved everything they did. And they got off a guy who, by all accounts that's coming out now, didn't want to be there, was kind of a team cancer. And I think they were great. Secondly, I really like what the Cavs did, which is weird. They moved Rubio, who they probably weren't going to sign, and he may not even play in the NBA anymore.
Yeah, I don't know. It's going to be
and
interesting.
and not because of talent, just because he's moving on so much. It's time to maybe go back home and just kind of relax. And then they got LeVert for pretty much him and some seconds. And LeVert's a guy I would have really liked to go for. I think he's a guy that can be a play creating wing. You can have him almost run point guard. He can score. He can play good defense. He's got decent size. He's got 1 year left on his deal, so you get a look at him. And if you don't like him, you're really not out anything. And with Sexton being hurt and Rubio being out, that's a great guard to plug in. And, I mean, they're going to be able to make a playoff run.
Right. And I would say, so for my winners, I got a couple too that I'll go through. And obviously the Nets is obviously one of them, right? Like you get Ben Simmons. Another thing of that, you think about you think about Ben Simmons and his ability to distribute to open shooters. You got Joe Harris and Seth Curry on the same team.
And you've got who's that Australian? I can't think of his name right now. That used to be the Spurs forever.
I'm trying to remember.
Patty Mills.
Patty Mills?
Yeah, you've got Patty Mills. You've got Durant. I think I was just looking. They've got like 3 guys shooting over 40% now. And they've got like another 2 or 3 shooting 35+%, almost 40% with Curry coming over. I mean, they've got shooters everywhere.
Right. Yeah, and so some of my winners, I would say, honestly, and we'll get in this trade in a little bit, but I think a big winner is the Dallas Mavericks. Just to get rid of Porzingis. I mean, he's owed a lot of money. He hasn't jived well with Luka, and he's rarely on the court. Like, you hate to say it, but he's rarely on the court. And so I would say that, and they bring in a good scorer that could go around Luka Doncic, like Dinwiddie. I don't think Dinwiddie moves the needle as far as a contender, but I think the good thing is that they got off Porzingis. And also, I think the Celtics did pretty well in this trade deadline, bringing in Derek White. All they had to give up was like Romeo Langford and some other guy. So I think they made a good move. Yeah, Richardson. Yeah, which, I mean, he had one good year in Miami, but I think that was a good move as well. And I don't know. I think the Celtics are a team on the upswing right now, particularly how they've been playing. I mean, they've been playing amazing defense, and you add that on, and I just think
they brought in that Theis guy or Theis or whatever.
Oh yeah, that was a move like right after the trade deadline, like right before it ended. Yeah, Daniel Theis.
So he's another hard-nosed kind of banger to to clog up the middle.
Yeah, absolutely. So let's move, and we'll go with this, Chris. Who would you say are the big losers from this year's trade deadline?
See, I would go Dallas.
Really? Okay.
So I would have said Dallas because money-wise with Bertans, who I think he's got 3 years left, making $16 million each. And I think Dinwiddie is about the same. So if you add them up, I don't think they got any cap relief or any really years off of what off Porzingis was having. And Bertans is shooting 31% right now for 3 this year, which is his worst year. Who knows? Maybe he'll pick it back up. But that's the same percentage Dinwiddie's shooting, 31% from 3. That's terrible. I mean, that's like, well below NBA average. So I don't really know what their plan was, unless it was literally Luka saying, I hate Porzingis, because it's not like Dinwiddie's, Cal Ripken, Mr. Unbreakable either. Like, that guy's hurt a lot too. So I would say they took a bad hit. And who else do I think? Sacramento took an interesting hit.
Yeah, and I wanted to talk about that too, but yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. Do we want to break them down trade by trade or just kind of keep rolling?
Sure. Yeah, we can do that. Why don't we start with the early one? Your thoughts on the Jamanta Sabonis trade?
So what I guess happened here is, this is my guess. My guess is they're realizing that Fox, I don't think, likes to play with Halliburton. I don't think Fox likes the fact that Halliburton's crowd favorite. He's taken a lot of the shine off of Fox. So I don't think those two were jiving together. And I think they probably tried to move Fox, who's got something like 4 years left after this year, $34 million each year. They try to move him, and I don't think there's many takers. So it's like, well, how do we improve this roster? I guess we're going to have to move Halliburton. And it's not terrible move, in my opinion. Like, Sabonis doesn't really, like, he doesn't check the analytics boxes, but he's a monster. He's a good ball mover.
Yes.
He can get out and, he can push a break a little bit. Hell of a rebounder. He's just a really good, solid player. I think I would rather have Sabonis and Fox probably on a team than what Halliburton and Fox were giving you without a big. So I see that. The problem I have is I feel like you could have looked around the league and found another, maybe even better player or better package to get for Halliburton. I think Halliburton's value is a lot higher than what they got, but getting a multiple time all-star who's 25, 26, like, that's not a bad gig, and he's not on a bad deal. I think he's making under 20 a year. So that's not terrible. I think it's okay. And then for Indiana's side, they're on full rebuild now, and they've still got some guys to chop up. I mean, they've still got Brogdon, who's got 3 years left. They've got Buddy Hield, which is 3 years. I think Brogdon's making 22 a year for the next 3. Buddy's making 20 for the next 2. Turner's got 18 next year. Those guys probably all need to go. And then you're going to build around this high draft pick you're going to get this year. And they've got Duarte and Halliburton in the backcourt. That's a decent start to a whole new franchise. So I don't think that's bad.
Yeah, I think so too. I think that I get what Sacramento is doing. Now, they have been very vocal all year that we're trying to make a run. We're not making a run, but they're trying to make the playoffs, right? And the best player in that deal was Domantas Sabonis. Like, right now, like, Halliburton, could it happen?
And not close. It's really not close either.
Right. Could it happen with Halliburton down the line? Very possible. And that's the upside that Indiana might be looking at. Like, oh, we get Halliburton. Now, sure. I have heard in the media and stuff that Halliburton was very hurt by being moved from Sacramento. Apparently, like, he was asked, I believe it was like a week before, like, they just come off of a really bad loss, and they asked him about it, and he's like, I'm part of this team. This is everything to me. Like, this is a team that drafted me, blah, blah, blah. And then they go and trade him. Now, maybe that's just the harsh realities of the NBA, but I'm rooting for Halliburton in Indiana. But yeah, I think it's a good move for both sides. I've been looking at other people reviewing it, and they're giving Sacramento like an F just because they gave up Halliburton. I don't read into that. I think they got the best player in the deal.
Well, I mean, here's the thing. You're not moving Fox. So they may have had a bad trade, like value for value long term. It's very possible, but I don't think Fox and Halliburton were working together. So one of them had to move, and you can't move Fox right now. So that's the move they had to do. A little bit about Halliburton. We've talked about him a couple of times on here. A good friend of mine's dad coached him in high school in Oshkosh. And my friend who played basketball at the school I went to, college, grew up helping him, like working with him as a youth and kids. So like they know him very well. And he just bought a house out in Sacramento. I think maybe moved his parents out there. And bought his parents a house. I know his girlfriend, I think, transferred schools to finish out there. So, it's that whole reality of trades. And I think this is probably a story with almost all these guys is you gotta take your whole life up and move it. So, I mean, there's a lot more than just statistics being moved around. These are real people in real situations. But,
For example, not to cut you off, but just
No,
one
it's
thing I
fine.
heard from Kendrick Perkins. He was talking on the ESPN. Like they asked him about like what's the effect of having like a trade on the actual person. He was like, yeah, my son's been to 8 schools like
Right.
growing up, and he's still in high school. Like that would be crazy, but you don't
Yeah.
think about it like think about Ish. I don't know if Ish Smith has kids, but think about what his family must be going through. He gets traded like every single year.
Yeah.
Like where's the stability in
Or
that?
Rubio. And that's the thing
Or
with
Rubio,
Rubio.
yeah.
That's what he said. He's like, I'm kind of sick. Like before, like when the Timberwolves moved him, he's like, that's why I can see him being done with the NBA. Like he's a loyal guy that no one's loyal to, and that's what Halliburton is. I mean, he came from small town Oshkosh, Wisconsin, went to Ames, Iowa. He's, just a hardworking kind of kid, and then he goes out thinking that he's found his place in California and it's going to work out. And then, business is business.
Right. And and I know you can find a city anywhere, but what a jump from California to Indiana. Like that's a pretty big jump if you're going to make one. Now, I know it's not like Sacramento isn't necessarily LA, but still, I mean, that's still a big jump. But
organization-wise, it might be a better move, though.
That's true. That's true. Yeah. Is Larry Bird still involved in Indiana?
I think Larry Bird's always going to be involved in Indiana one way or another, but I don't think he is officially.
Oh, okay. So let's move on to the next trade. We kind of talked about the Simmons one, but the other one that started right before the deadline, the CJ McCollum to the Pelicans. What do you think about this one?
Another trade that everyone was saying, Portland dropped the ball and they fell apart. You're giving a guy away for nothing. What I didn't like about this trade is Portland took a lot of money back. Like the idea is to just dump money right now. Portland's trying to, start over. And, they created a $21 million trade exception, meaning that's like a coupon and I think you've got it for a year, use it as like a coupon for salary cap. So that's nice. But more importantly, next year, they've got $60 million they're going to be under the cap. So that's a good chunk of money to rebuild with because the McCollum and Lillard thing wasn't working, like there's no rings on anyone's fingers and they're not getting any younger. So right. I think it was time to bail from that plan, almost like, Fox and Halliburton, if it's not working, you got to make a move. So right now they're lucky enough to have Anthony Simons, who's looking to be as good, if not better than McCollum. And they're going to have to sign him next year. So now they already have 2 solid, backcourt guys if Lillard comes back. And then they're going to have, maybe $40 million to play with. Not a bad move and probably a high draft pick. So I think for like starting over, I think that was a smart move that they can do a quick rebuild because they're going to have 2 solid guards that, can score 20, 25 points a game. And now they can build up their front court and everything else. For the Pelicans, I like it because you bring in a vet that knows how to play the game. You add him with Brandon Ingram, who's having a phenomenal year.
Oh yeah.
They've got Graham, who I like a lot, although he's kind of fallen off the last 2 years, but I like Graham. So you've got an explosive team. You've got Valanciunas, who's just a monster down low. And then you've got this trade chip of Zion, who, supposedly doesn't want to be there. I don't know how it's going to work, but if you can, finesse some kind of deal to bring a bunch of assets back from Zion to build around that roster, you've got a kind of a vet roster right away that can maybe make a push for some playoff noise. I mean, they don't really have that star type guy. Like I would say Brandon Ingram's like probably low level all-star kind of guy. But maybe you can bring back an all-star for Zion. Who knows?
Yeah, that's true. Also, there's the perspective, maybe bring back Zion and maybe just let that big 3 do their thing. Like I wouldn't say it's a world-beating big 3, but it's better than what the Pelicans have had in the past. So
for sure. I mean, it's definitely a good team.
Yeah. I mean, you got McCollum, you got Ingram and Zion. I mean, the problem is we don't know what Zion's going to be when he comes back is the thing. Like now there were reports
back.
Right. There was reports that he's way out of shape. There's reports that I don't know, but man,
Surprise.
yeah, how good is Memphis feeling right now with Ja Morant though? Just feeling that I almost feel like they must be feeling like they dodged a bullet with the whole Zion thing.
For sure. I mean,
Yeah.
Zion's got a lot of Jamarcus Russell in him. Like that's what he looks like to me. Like one of those guys that maybe doesn't really have that love for the game, was just a natural athlete, never really puts the work in. And I mean, he's got no jumper. Like he's never
Mhm.
improved. He's a dunker. He's a 6'5" dunker. Um,
Mhm.
I don't know. I've never been a huge Zion guy, so I'm kind of biased in my opinions on him. But yeah, I think the Pelicans would be smart to move him for whatever they can get.
Mhm. Yeah, I think so. Man, I think it's going to be tough for them to find a trade partner though, because
The
like
New
who wants
York Knicks.
maybe.
No, not
Maybe.
even maybe. They want him bad.
Oh, do they? Oh,
Oh
okay.
yeah, they've been, and supposedly he wants to go there, which is perfect because no one else wants to. So that would work.
Yeah. Man, I mean, I don't know. I hate to see the Knicks implode, but that's kind of what they're doing right
Do
now.
you?
But I don't know. I've always been a closet Knicks fan.
I know.
I was in when like Carmelo. I actually got to see them play in MSG when Carmelo and Stoudemire, the good year, not the bad years, but the
Yeah,
actual
yeah,
good
yeah.
year. That was right around high school, and those were some good years. But I've always been a closet Knicks fan. But I don't know. But I
One of my really good friends is a true Knicks fan, but he goes back to the Patrick Ewing,
sure.
John Starks kind of era.
Yeah. And I think it's good. I will say this. I do think it's good for the NBA when there's a good team in New York. Like when the Knicks are
sure.
good, I think it is good for the NBA just for ratings and stuff like that. I think it brings more people in, but yeah, I don't know. But also I wanted to bring up just before we get to the next trade, one loser from this NBA trade deadline that I will say, man, what are the Lakers doing? Like, well, the answer is nothing. But how do you literally have LeBron go into a press conference and say, I don't think this team is that good, and then not try something? Try. Like,
Supposedly there was a deal out there that was
for
John
Wall,
Wall
yeah,
and Westbrook, but they were going to have to give up a first. And I don't know if that's even that much of an improvement. I think you have to just hope that, I mean, Westbrook was a monster second half of the season last year. Maybe that'll happen again. I don't know. He
mm-hmm,
seems to have the yips or something. Like there's probably, I've seen probably 15, 20 of these like wing jump shots that he tries to go glass this year, that he's like throwing them over the entire hoop. Like, I don't know
mm-hmm,
what's going on with Westbrook, but
yeah,
when you've got three guys making $40 million a year, and everyone else is making like $3 million a year, it's hard to make a trade.
mm-hmm,
That's the problem. And that's what Rosas always wanted to do. He wanted to keep a guy making 18 million. He wanted to keep some 14 millions, and he wanted to keep some like 10 million guys. Because now you got chips that you can move around the deck chairs to make a trade work.
right,
You can't do that. Like if no one's jumping at, what's his name? Trenton Horton Tucker.
yeah. Taylor Horton Tucker, yeah,
Like you pretty much got him making like 6 mil or 7 or something like that, and then like a first round pick. If you got no one jumping at that, you literally have no other chips to pass. So
that's true.
they're just trapped.
If I were the Lakers and I have LeBron, who's, I mean, let's face it, he said in an interview that he wants to play until Bronny comes in the
For
league.
sure.
I don't know. I don't know if he can do that. I think he'll have to be in a part-time
Yes.
basis.
That's 2 years.
No, that's 3 years.
No, it's not, because I think he can be a freshman and come out. He can come out. He doesn't have to go to college.
Oh, okay. Wait,
So he'll be able to, I think he'll be able to come out right after high school, and he will. Why wouldn't you? Who's not drafting a guy that LeBron says he's going to go play with?
I guess, yeah.
I mean, that's the number one pick in the draft right there, isn't it? Who cares if you can play? You get LeBron James.
That's true.
Well, maybe not the number one pick, but it's a first round pick.
It's just the thing, like LeBron is great when he's on the court, but he hasn't been on the court much this year. Like he's breaking down. And it shouldn't be too much of a surprise for NBA fans because he's 37, so he's getting up there. So I don't know, but yeah, I honestly, if I'm the Lakers, I almost do the John Wall thing and just see if it works out, because
Worth a
what
shot.
they're doing now isn't working. So I would have tried it at least.
Yeah, they're in trouble.
Also, on the talking about the Rockets, Christian Wood is still a Rocket, and Eric Gordon is still a Rocket, which is surprising to me. I don't understand why.
Yeah, I guess Wood's a good player. He's still fairly young, so maybe they're like, well, we're going to use him as our vet and build around him and these other super young guys. Gordon, I don't understand unless there's no interest for him. But you'd think you
Right.
could at least grab a couple seconds. Like, why not?
Right.
He's doing you no good.
I would have given up a couple seconds for Eric Gordon. Absolutely. 100%.
Sure. I mean, you have to make the salary match. I don't know what he's making,
Right.
probably 20 million, but
right. I mean, yeah, we have to dump some people, but that's easily doable. So before we go too far into other teams, and I kind of gave my 2 cents on the video that came out on this channel. Your thoughts on the Wolves not doing anything? Okay with it? Leery about it? Or just kind of just your thoughts?
I think Leary is a good question, a good word. It's one of those things where, I'm glad we didn't make a bad deal, and we've made things like that in the past.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it's important to, to build chemistry. I don't think that's a bad thing, and to find out really what we have. Like, I would have liked a low-level move. Like I said, I would have loved the Levert move. I think what we need to do, or what I would do if I was a GM, is I think we need to punch some lottery tickets. Like, is Mo Bamba gonna be? Is he going to be a superstar or a really good player? Who knows? Is Levert going to be a really good player? I don't know. Take a couple of these young players that are their teams are kind of done with, and sniff them through for half a year and see if they're going to be something special. If they're not, move on from them. That's fine. Like, if it doesn't cost much. So I would like to do that, but we'll see. I mean, it's going to be interesting. I think now the move would be, if I was the Wolves going forward, and which we might talk about in a future video, is like what's going forward with the Wolves for you. But I think it's time to, maybe even this offseason, not really make many moves either, and keep our salary cap kind of as low as we can, maybe just over the cap a little bit, and wait until we can make a big splash move, because we might as well see what Nas is going to be in a couple of years. We might as well see what McDaniels is going to be. We might as well see if Vanderbilt can add a corner jumper and something. But we definitely have some holes. So, but we're going to have a first-round pick this year. We've got 3 seconds, which we're going to package probably and move for maybe some future seconds, or maybe move up into the first, who knows. But we only have 3 roster spots to fill, and we've got, the guys that are leaving are Okogie, Prince, and Beverly. So we might sign one of those guys back. We got a first-round pick to put in there. Like, we got some low-level moves, but what it's telling me is we're not looking to make a big push next year either. We're going to try to build organically and maybe move up the Western Conference. Like, this year will be, 8, 7, 6, and maybe next year will be 7, 6, 5 range, and just kind of do that until something maybe pops where we can grab somebody that'll be a needle mover.
Right. Do you think, I almost wonder, are we kind of like trying to do it like the Memphis Grizzlies or kind of did it? Like, they get in the league, or not in the league, but they make the play-in tournament. Then next year they make the playoffs, make some noise. And then like this year, it seems like they're going on the big run. Are we kind of 2 years away almost?
Yeah. I think we are. And I think Memphis might have to look out. They sound a lot, or they look a lot like what Atlanta looked like last year to me, a team that's catching fire and very easily the very next year could maybe not have it. So we'll see about them. But I think we're working our way up. And maybe even more like Atlanta, where all of a sudden we might have a year where we go get a guy like Gallinari and go get a guy like Capella, and we might, sell it all and make that big run.
Yeah, absolutely. One trade that I thought was kind of interesting, and if you want to know my thoughts kind of on the Wolves, I made a video on this channel. You can go check it out. It's called My Initial Thoughts on the Trade Deadline, but quick summary on that. I don't mind that we didn't do anything. Marcus Smart must have been too much money, or we couldn't make the salaries match, or just didn't think it was a good move, but you can check out that video.
Long money. There's a lot of years on that money, too.
Yeah, for sure. That would be a long-term commitment. One guy that I wanted to mention, Montrezl Harrell, I thought went very, very cheap. And that's what I was kind of looking at for the Wolves. I mean, all that the Washington got was Vernon Carey and Ish Smith. That seems like, to me, when I hear Vernon Carey and Ish Smith, that kind of seems like Josh Okogie and Jake Layman. Like that sounds like that kind of deal to me. So do you think we could have made a play at that?
So what's interesting is when you see something like that happen, you're like, man, this guy was 2 years removed from sixth man of the year. Like, he's a monster. Like, he put up, I don't know, like a 20 game on us the other night or beginning of the year. So why would someone move him for so cheap when they turned around and made a big play for Porzingis? Well, what I think it is I think people don't like Montrezl Harrell. Like, I think it's very possible that he's not loved in that locker room or in that organization, and they wanted him out because now they're trying to decide how do we keep Bradley Beal? You know, how do we keep Beal? We've got Kuzma, he's paid for $15 million for 3 more years. That's not bad. You got Porzingis that's there for 2 or 3 more years, and you got Beal. That's not a terrible lineup right there if you can build around that. And I think Harrell was just a guy that is probably a cancer. I mean, there was some rumblings that the Wolves were sniffing around him, but they thought he was maybe a locker room trouble, and like a bad vibes kind of killer, or a good vibes killer kind of guy. So for him to go for so cheap raises an eyebrow for sure.
Right, for sure, absolutely, and more credit, more power to Gupta if he looked into that trade and thought, I have such good team chemistry right now, I don't want to try to jeopardize that. I mean, more power to him if that's what came up, and who knows how that's going to work. And now you have 2 guys with the Wizards, Porzingis and Harrell, that who knows if people even like playing with those 2. I mean, that has come up in the past. Like, who knows?
I think Kuzma's had some of those bad vibes before too, but he seems to be really, really fitting in well there. And man, his game skyrocketed. That's a guy that supposedly, I've heard rumors that Rosas turned down Rubio for Kuzma and went with Prince instead.
Interesting. I did not hear that, but that's interesting if that's true. Would you have rather had Prince or Kuzma?
Kuzma by a mile.
Okay.
Kuzma's killing it this year. Kuzma would be, if we had Kuzma right now on his 3 years, $15 million a year, whatever deal he has, we would be set at power forward. And I think we would be pushing for like a 5-4 seed. I think he's that good.
Okay.
And he's from Michigan, so he's local, kind of.
Yeah. Midwest at least. So yeah, I think we're going to end it there. This is the Everything's Coming Up Timberwolves podcast. We'll have Jared back next week, but Chris, thanks so much for being here.
No problem.
This is the Everything's Coming Up Timberwolves podcast. Make sure to like, share, and subscribe on YouTube, and hit that bell so you never miss an episode, and follow us on Spotify also so you never miss an episode if you're listening to it on Spotify. And as always, go Wolves.